right. Thank you, Laura. All right, this is a Fox News alert. Raising the stakes for the Democrats and Christine Blasey Ford. The Republican-controlled Judiciary Committee is setting a Friday deadline for an answer about whether she'll testify. And a key Democrat running for a Senate seat in a swing state says the vote should go forward even if Ford doesn't appear under oath. We'll hear from the Senate Judiciary Committee on what's next. And the president's personal attorney, Jay Sekulow, is here live. And breaking tonight moments ago, America's top diplomat speaking out on new developments in North Korea. And John Kerry's continued efforts to put the Iran deal back together in direct conflict.
Hold a Senate committee vote shortly after to start pushing Judge Kavanaugh through. The key tonight is 3 Republican swing votes, not always supportive of President Trump, are all calling for Dr. Ford to testify. Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, Susan Collins insisting that she should appear Monday. Corker saying if she doesn't show, the Senate should move forward with a vote. Yet Dr. Ford's attorney, Lisa Banks, declaring tonight, quote, the committee's stated plan to move forward with a hearing that has only 2 witnesses is not a fair or good faith investigation. There are multiple witnesses whose names have appeared publicly and should be included in any proceeding. The rush to a hearing is unnecessary and contrary to the committee discovering the truth, except some of those potential witnesses have said they do not have firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident, so they may not help Dr. Ford's case. And Grassley is saying this started with her wanting to be heard. He's trying to hear from her, and Democrats, he says, are moving the goalposts. And he said if Democrats want such a thorough investigation, why did Senator Dianne Feinstein not immediately turn over the letter that she received to the FBI back in July, something the president hammered again today as he referred to Judge Kavanaugh 3 times as Justice Kavanaugh.
Justice Kavanaugh has been treated very, very tough, and his family, I think it's a very unfair thing what's going on. If she shows up, that would be wonderful. If she doesn't show up, that would be unfortunate.
Well, Feinstein fired back, quote, President Trump and Dr. Blasey Ford did not want her story of sexual assault to be public. She requested confidentiality, and I honored that. It wasn't until the media outed her that she decided to come forward. You may not respect women and the wishes of victims, but I do. Now, Grassley sent a very tough letter to Feinstein and Democrats on Judiciary tonight saying his staff has repeatedly asked for that original letter Dr. Ford sent, and Feinstein will not turn it over, suggesting that they're keeping it secret, even though Dr. Ford went public with the story. All of these contradictions are leading top Republicans tonight to say privately they're finally feeling relatively good about Kavanaugh's confirmation chances, but nobody can safely predict what will happen next, Shannon, because there have literally been many, many twists and turns. I suspect there's going to be some more.
I feel like by the time we get to Monday, this will have pivoted 20 more times. But it's keeping us busy.
Absolutely.
All right, Ed, thank you. All right, one high school classmate of Kavanaugh's who is so far keeping a low profile is a man that many believe could be a star witness. If only he was willing to testify. So who is Mark Judge? Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh attended the prestigious Georgetown Prep all-boys Catholic school in the Maryland suburbs. In 1982, then 15-year-old Christine Blasey Ford claims a drunken Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her at a party with Judge in the room, watching and laughing. But in this letter Tuesday to the Senate Judiciary Committee, Judge, now a freelance writer and filmmaker, repeated earlier assertions, quote, I have no memory of this alleged incident, and I never saw Brett act in the manner Dr. Ford describes. Judge also refuses to speak publicly before the committee at its scheduled hearing next week. Yet senators on both sides of the aisle urge any alleged witnesses to step forward.
Anybody that close, you would think that we'd want to hear from. I just don't know that. I don't know enough about it.
There are corroborating witnesses, and they, too, must be called, including Mark Judge, who was allegedly in the room.
Judge has written about his high school days. In God and Man at Georgetown Prep, Judge recalled being shocked at students getting away with drinking themselves into stupors and lusting after girls from nearby Catholic schools. Nevertheless, women who knew Kavanaugh back then defend the Supreme Court nominee.
He was someone who did have a beer, but he was never out of control. He never became someone different after drinking.
You both know him. Do you have any recollection of this party?
No.
No.
I don't know anything about the party.
Now, in his recent writings, Mark Judge has renounced his supposed lifestyle. It's not clear how close he and Kavanaugh were in high school or the years since. We reached out to Judge through his attorney for comment, but we have not heard back. Okay, so Democrats and many in the media claim Christine Blasey Ford will not get a fair hearing from what they repeatedly refer to as the 11 white men on the panel. The two sides clearly disagree.
Well, where I'm focused right now is doing everything that we can to make Dr. Ford comfortable with coming before our committee, either in an open session or a closed session or a public or a private interviews. That's 4 different ways she can choose to come.
It rings true to me how she's divulged it, who she's divulged it to over time, over many years. That's exactly what happens when someone has this kind of trauma. And so it rings true. And so we need a proper, professional, appropriate review and hearing. And what they are forcing on her right now, I think, is inappropriate.
Okay, let's talk about it with Garrett Ventry, spokesman for the Judiciary Committee. Welcome to Fox News at Night.
Thank you for having me.
I got a lot of questions for you. I hope you have a lot of answers. Let's start with this. What efforts have you all made to talk to Dr. Ford?
So the committee has reached out to the attorney for Dr. Ford multiple times. We've left voicemails. We've obviously emailed back and forth in an attempt to find a comfortable setting for Dr. Ford to share these allegations with the committee. We've offered an opportunity to a public hearing, a private hearing, to meet with staff. We've even offered to fly anywhere around the globe to meet with her. We would go to California to send staff there so that we could do this in a comfortable setting for her, as the chairman has said.
Okay, and you know that the ranking member, Senator Dianne Feinstein, has really pushed back. Here's part of what she said today in a tweet. She said, in 1991, the FBI reopened a background investigation. Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas were interviewed. Every day more people came forward claiming firsthand knowledge of the events. It's time for the FBI to do the same today. Why are Republicans resisting an investigation? Is that accurate?
Well, I think it's interesting because, as Chairman Grassley has pointed out multiple times today, that Senator Feinstein sat on this information for about 6 weeks before she brought this. She didn't even bring it up. It was leaked via the media. So if she wanted an FBI investigation, it's interesting she did not bring it up as soon as she heard those allegations. Alluding to the Clarence Thomas hearing, Joe Biden, who was the chairman of the committee at that time, immediately referred that to the White House so the FBI can investigate it. The committee is in a position to investigate this. We've begun this. We have reached out to both Dr. Ford and Judge Kavanaugh to do routine background calls. So far, the ranking member's staff would typically join the majority staff on those calls, and they've refused to participate.
Well, and so people know you all on the committee, each side, Democrats and Republicans, they have staffers whose job it is to complete these investigations. This is part of what you do as part of the confirmation process. Are you saying then that the Democrats are not engaging in the investigation at this point, or they're not joining you in what you're doing? What's your assessment?
They have not participated in this. Like I said, Chairman Grassley has led a very transparent process thus far. As soon as he heard about these allegations Sunday, he moved to set up these background calls so we can start this investigation. The committee and the Senate has a constitutional duty to look at these nominees that the president nominates and to see whether or not they're qualified and fit. The FBI has already stated in a statement that they have closed this part of the investigation. Now the Senate is moving swiftly under Chairman Grassley to investigate these allegations, and we really would like to give Dr. Ford the opportunity to share these allegations further with the committee and Judge Kavanaugh an opportunity to clear his name.
Her attorney says that she's been thrust into the spotlight, that she has been traumatized, she has been threatened, she and her family. They've outlined all kinds of things she's going through. They say it's not fair to rush her into this on Monday.
Yeah. Let me just say this. Chairman Grassley has been very clear in condemning any threats towards Dr. Ford. He thinks that's inappropriate, and he thinks that needs to end, that anybody that is doing that is wrong. The second part of that is that the attorney for Dr. Ford was on multiple morning shows saying that her client was willing to testify. So Chairman Grassley set a hearing for Monday so that she would have the opportunity to do that. And he said this could be public or private. He wants to do this in a way that is comfortable for her. He understands these allegations are serious, and he wants to give her an opportunity to come forward and talk about that.
What happens if she doesn't show up Monday, or if she doesn't give you guys the indication by the time she turns in her responses and her paperwork on Friday morning? Will you have a hearing on Monday without her or with her?
Again, right now, Chairman Grassley's focus is trying to provide a comfortable setting for her to share these allegations. We'll continue to reach out to her attorney as well to hopefully find a setting to do that. But that's really what we're focused on right now.
Any scenario in which Judge Kavanaugh publicly testifies, takes questions from committee members on Monday, whether or not she shows up?
Like I said, at this point, really, the only thing that we're focused on is trying to get Dr. Ford to come to whether it's a public or private meeting with our staff or the public or private hearing so that we can hear those allegations and give Judge Kavanaugh as well an opportunity to share.
Keep us updated, because you probably have more whiplash than we do, but let us know.
We'll do. I don't even know what day it is, so.
I think it's Wednesday. Garrett, thank you for stopping in.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
Good to see you. All right, so where do the two sides go from here? Tonight's Legal Eagles are here to weigh in. Former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo and former committee counsel to Senator Patty Murray, Dave Brown. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Good evening, Shannon.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's talk through a little bit of this. Senator Grassley today, in a letter to the Democrats on the committee, said this. He said they have interviewed Judge Kavanaugh. He didn't hesitate. He's been forthright. He knew it was under a felony penalty if he is lying. We invited the minority staff to participate and ask Judge Kavanaugh its own questions, but the minority staff declined. The majority staff has also sought to set up interviews with Dr. Ford, Mark Judge, and 2 other alleged witnesses. The minority staff is welcome to participate in the investigative process as well, but it has thus far declined. Dave, does that hurt their case if they don't join in this process?
Well, I think what it illustrates is that we're rushing to the finish line when really we need to be taking a step back and conducting a thorough, independent investigation. And you've heard now from every member every Democratic member of the Senate Judiciary Committee calling for the White House to request that the FBI reopen the background check on Judge Kavanaugh and assess the allegations that have been brought forward as part of the background check. It's exactly what was done during the confirmation process for then Judge Clarence Thomas, and it's what should be done in this instance as well. And the reason being, Shannon, and I'm speaking as a former committee counsel, albeit not the Judiciary Committee, but with as much respect to my former colleagues, we're not equipped. We're not trained to conduct the kind of forensic investigations, to depose witnesses, to really build a case in the same way that the FBI is. And so if the Senate is legitimately interested in conducting a thorough, fair, and impartial investigation to get to the truth, either to conclude that Dr. Ford is telling the truth or to clear Judge Kavanaugh's name, that's the way forward.
Let me get John in here. John, I mean, to my understanding, there are investigators on staff to do this very thing. And the FBI has repeatedly said, at least publicly, they don't go out and do criminal investigations on something that happened 36 years ago. They wouldn't have jurisdiction, and this is not what they do, that this is what the Senate committee, Democrats and Republicans, should be doing.
Well, Shannon, I was general counsel of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and there is a routine procedure for exactly this kind of case. There are people who always might raise doubts, come in with different questions as a nomination is nearing its consideration by the Senate. And so we do have investigators. There are investigators on staff whose job it is to run down accusations or questions about people in their background files.
Let me ask you about this then.
Lawyers on the staff.
Okay, let me ask you about this then, because this is what the ranking member, Dianne Feinstein, she's a senator. She would know how this works, we would assume. She says this, fact check, the FBI can investigate Dr. Blasey Ford's allegations as part of its background investigation. That is their job. To say otherwise is false. It investigated Anita Hill's allegations of sexual harassment against Clarence Thomas. It should investigate this too. So is it their job or the committee's job, John?
Look, there's confusion about what the FBI does here. The FBI is not conducting a criminal investigation. Even if this happened yesterday, they wouldn't be conducting a criminal investigation, because if this were a crime, it would be under state jurisdiction. The FBI wouldn't have that job. In this kind of function, the FBI is just helping the Senate conduct a background investigation, which is collecting all the information about someone, maybe making determinations about the credibility of the information about them, but they're not out there trying to solve crimes. They're not conducting forensic investigations like you would with a crime. They present that information to the committee. In this case, in the Kavanaugh case, there is no forensics. This is 35 years ago. The only stories you need to hear from are from Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford, and maybe a few other witnesses, and you have to make a credibility determination by each senator about who's telling the truth, and then they take that into account when they vote on whether to give their advice and consent.
And Dave, we all know that Senators Grassley and Feinstein are good friends. They are complimentary to each other all the time, but there's a little back and forth today. This letter from Senator Grassley to Senator Feinstein says the fact is that these allegations could have been raised both within the last 7 weeks and in a way that protected Dr. Ford's anonymity. Instead, you chose to sit on the allegations until a politically opportune moment. He went on to say that he can't overstate how deeply disappointed he was, Dave.
And in senatorial language, that's a pretty stern letter. Look, I can't imagine the position that Senator Feinstein found herself in receiving this letter, a letter that requested that the author remain anonymous, confidential. I think she was in a very tough spot, and I think she's endeavored to navigate this really as her North Star being respecting Dr. Ford's wishes. So, you know, Shannon, I understand that it's inconvenient to the chairman's timing in terms of how he would like to move this nomination forward, but the fact is we have credible allegations that have now surfaced publicly because they came through the media, and we now have to address them, and we have to do so in a thoughtful and deliberate way.
Before she had her one-on-one meeting with him, Dave, she knew. She also knew during the public questioning. She also knew during the closed questioning, which she didn't show up for.
Yeah, Shannon, honestly, those are questions for Senator Feinstein. I'm not going to presume to stand in her shoes, other than to say she has said publicly she was endeavoring to respect the confidentiality and the trust that was vested in her from Dr. Ford.
We got to leave it there with two of our Senate legal eagles. Dave.